So my name is Jeanine. I'm very happy to be here. I hope my voice won't let me down today and you can understand me well despite my hoarseness. If not, please, Nicole, give me a sign. So I keep my presentation a bit shorter than intended. So I count on you, Nicole, for the interactions in the audience particularly. So I'm a student in biology and ethnology at the University of Neuchâtel. And I've also been volunteering for GreenUp for a while now, for a bit more than 2 years, I think. And I'm interested in botany, agroecology, biodiversity, plants. And in my free time, I also like to collect edible wild plants from the surrounding area. So I like GreenUp because you can exchange with like-minded people, but also with people who come from a variety of different backgrounds.
Cool. So that's us. And we're still figuring out the sound for the people that are here. But we're very curious to also hear who are you and what brought you here. What is your background? So maybe just I don't know, the others that are online, Karen, Julia, Caroline, are you able to at least raise your hand when I ask a question? That would be cool. So who here considers themselves a green thumb, and who considers themselves a plant killer? Or somewhere in between? That's also okay. The others that are online? Okay, so we have a mixture, I would say. Cool. Who here has ever tried to propagate a plant? Do you know what that is? Propagate? It's to try to create a new plant from your existing plants.
Works nicely with succulents, for example, like you take a leaf and then they grow another plant on its own.
Yeah, we'll get into that also, Jeanine will. And who has done maybe urban gardening, like try to grow vegetables or herbs themselves? A bit. Okay. So we have, again, a mixture. Cool. So now we know a little bit where you guys are at. I see also people posting some stuff in the chat. Cool. Yeah, then with no further ado, I would hand over to Jeanine and what facts are important considering plants and sustainability.
Thank you. Yeah, so to begin with, I have some facts about indoor plants. So they have gotten more and more popular in the last couple of years. The sales have been increasing and the COVID pandemic accelerated this development even more because people, spend more time at home. And with indoor plants, you can take a bit of nature to your home. And that is, of course, also coupled to urbanization. So living in a concrete city can make you want to reach out to nature again. People might also feel less lonely by being surrounded by plants because there are living organisms that you can take care of. And especially nowadays in a time where everything comes and goes by so fast and where you have to think of many things at once. And then there are also several global crises. So at times of crisis, plants can bring calmness and promote well-being, but also productivity and concentration. So there have been also studies done about that. And I also think that social media has a big impact on that plant boom. That means that there are more younger people nowadays who are interested in plants. Maybe that's a naive way to put that statement, but anyways, I personally noticed too that people on Instagram and so on, they were suddenly very interested in indoor plants. And this is a phenomenon that you can observe since the era of social media, the era of trends and hypes and booms. And of course, where global trends are, there are also the tentacles of capitalism, right? So market competition on indoor plants will inevitably force weaker businesses to their knee, unfortunately. And with that, I will talk about the other side of the coin. So the next slide, please. The negative aspects of this hype, of this indoor plant boom. So on the one hand, small businesses, as I said, will suffer because the online business and bigger companies take over. And that is not only the case with plant businesses, but all types of commerce actually. And on the other hand, it's clear that there must be an environmental impact too of this rising business. So in fact, many common indoor plants like Monstera or Calathea and so on, they're tropical plants and are imported from far away, from Latin America or Africa. But there are also big greenhouses in Europe, in the Netherlands, for example. And these greenhouses have to be heated, of course, which requires a lot of energy. But not only energy, but also they deploy enormous amounts of water. And most of them are also treated with pesticides, which is not necessarily a bad thing per se, pesticides, because they allow to have healthier plants and control pests. But there are not really many organically produced indoor plants because and the efforts to do so are repressed by the very existence of pesticides, which make things still very easy. And also most of the plants, they come in plastic pots, which creates a lot of plastic waste. And my last point is the peat problem. You're probably already aware of that. Peat is a natural organic sediment that consists of dead plants, and thus it grows very slowly in moors. And its water retention and other characteristics are excellent for plant growth. And that's why actually it has been widely used in substrates and garden soils. But nowadays, it's quite common to find peat-free products because the problem of using peat is that it deteriorates the moor landscapes, which are an important ecosystem for a lot of different species, for plants and insects and animal species. And yeah, also because it's an organic sediment, the exploitation releases an enormous amount of carbon dioxide too. So pay attention to that aspect. Make sure that your soil is always peat-free. But I think in Switzerland, we have a lot of products that are nowadays peat-free. So this list is probably not exhaustive. There are probably other aspects. And I didn't go into details either, but the point is not to tell you how bad indoor plants are for the environment, but rather to draw your attention to these kinds of problematics. So what now? Yes, thank you. What can we do to have greens at home that are really green? So try to support local production. That means, for example, going to the to the florist shop around the corner, because usually they provide you with more detailed advice than in a big garden center. Or get a second-hand plant. You can also look around on flea markets online. For example, I think on Facebook and other websites, you have a lot of opportunities. Buy consciously, so ask yourself if you really want that specific plant. Do you really have the means to take care of it? And of course, know the needs of your plants, because important factors, for example, are luminosity, air humidity, the watering, temperature, the type of substrate, nutritional requirements, and maintenance factors like trimming or repotting. So by taking care of your houseplants and knowing what it needs and seeing them every day, they might be a reminder for you to keep an eye open to local plants too that grow around you and to appreciate plant diversity, and to generally maybe raise awareness for ecosystems and their services. So, and own the amount that you can take care of. Try to minimize waste. You can do that by collecting, for example, rainwater, or doing your own fertilizer. I put here some ideas, like banana peels or coffee for plants that like acidic soils, or eggshells for plants that like alkaline soils, pasta water, but here you have to pay attention to not put too much salt or only give it to plants that really like salt. Fish tank water, which is really great if you have an aquarium. Tea, etc. So there's endless possibilities that you can try and play around with. Or of course, swap your plants, get them secondhand, and propagate your plants. It always makes a nice gift to friends too. So with this being said, I invite everyone to come to the Plant Swap event this afternoon. And I will give the floor back to Nicole.
Thanks, Jeanine. That was a great summary of plants and how we stand currently. We all feel like this urban jungle helps us to be better, but there are many things that we're also still like learning and exploring. I'm definitely 2 steps behind Jeanine, but that we can do. For example, this propagating of plants, I just asked you, did you know that? And it's actually very, very simple way of doing it. And there are many plants good for it. Then in nature, there are a lot of plants that we can also enjoy and don't necessarily need to be in our homes, I would say. And the reuse and make each other happy with plants that maybe we have a lot of and we can give away. So that's the idea of the event that we're organizing this afternoon at 4:15. So it's not only a plant swap, it's also a seed swap. So there is also the Samenbörse, who is a really cool collective of people who really have like a library of seeds and know a lot about how to grow from seeds really into plants that are really native from Switzerland, but also a lot of other vegetables and types of plants. So I welcome you all to come there. And yeah, this was like, we try to keep it short, that we have time for discussion. So I invite you to ask anything you'd like to know. Otherwise, we'll share some more tips of our own or experiences that we've had. We're always happy to do that as well. So are there questions?
I think there are some questions in the chat.
Yeah. Jeanine, did you see them already?
Yes, there is Priyash who put a good point. First is illegal trade leading to plant extinction. Personally, I don't know much about it, but I can imagine that, usually the big plant producers they do monocultures of one certain species, and then they deploy a lot of land. So I can imagine that this leads to extinction too, but maybe Priyash, you have more knowledge, more information about that. I don't have a specific example either. And the second aspect is how to reduce insect infestation in the houseplants without using any harmful chemicals and keeping the indoor environment healthy. So I think, as we said, we're not experts, we're not gardeners or anything, but I think, as I said, in the florist shop, they can give you a lot of information, and also on the internet, you can find many ideas and DIYs for stuff like teas or other sprays you can do at home. I read about citrus water that you can once in a while spray and spritz over your plants to prevent scarrets, for example. And I think if you keep overall health balance of your plants, they're less likely to be infested either.
Yeah, exactly. That's also what I would say. So that's what I'm learning more and more, that it's really important to know your plants. So I don't know if you guys know, there are also apps in case you don't even know exactly what kind of plant you have in your house. There are really cool apps. For example, which one do I have? It's called PlantNet. And with that, you just kind of take a picture and it recognizes which plant it is. And then based on that, you can start Googling and knowing, okay, what does my plant need? Does it really need to be in the full sun, or should it actually sometimes be more in the shade? Should I water it every week or rather every month? And that in the basics is essential to sustainability of your own plants, to make sure that they live long. Is that correct, Jeanine? So, are there any more questions? Oh, Priya shows the legal trade is mostly across to the cactus and other plants which are in high demand as it causes imbalance in biodiversity. Yeah. And I guess people all take cactuses because they think it's easy to maintain. That's an interesting paradox. So yeah, I think if we start to pay attention more to the plants that we have and learn to really get to know them better, then we can also care for them better. Jeanine has a question.
Yeah, I was wondering, how is your position about invasive plant species? Because usually when we go in the supermarket and buy a plant, they sell invasive species even though they know they shouldn't sell them because they are like governmentally forbidden to sell, but still there is no execution that really keeps that law in place. So I was wondering, how is your point on that? So do you really try to avoid invasive species in your home, or do you just like it with a lot of diversity?
Did you hear the question online? Okay, so the question is about invasive species, that it's pretty easy to buy them, even though it's probably illegal for people to sell them, but at supermarkets or certain shops. And what is our take on that, or our suggestion? Should we do that? Should we avoid that? Jeanine, do you want to say something about it first?
So did I understand correctly? There are invasive species that are being sold?
Yeah.
And okay. As much as I know, for example, we have the lilac. It's the Fliede in German, which is considered as an invasive species, but it's also sold because of the nice flowers. Yeah, it's a delicate question because they're on the market for a reason, because people like them. But if you're aware of that, so you can also address the sellers maybe and ask them in how dangerous are they really, because the potential of being dangerous from the invasive species is to invade really the area and prevent other species from growing, local species. And if that is the case, so clearly you should not plant it in your garden. But I don't know if gardeners really sell these kinds of plants or have the ability to really invade the whole area.
Do you have an example?
There is one, for example, where you really like them because they make such beautiful hedges. I'm not so sure about the name. They are very big leaves and that size.
Very thick leaves.
Okay, so yeah, but if you are aware of that, then you can implement some measures like planting them in pots so that they cannot reproduce themselves with the roots. Or if you see that if you see the first signs of them being very invasive, you should maybe take it out of your garden.
Yeah, so this is more a problem for when you start to put it into real nature and not in a pot.
Yes,
inside.
and actually the characteristic of being invasive is always bound to a region. So something that is invasive here in Switzerland maybe is not in the southern part of Italy. And if something is considered invasive there, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's invasive here. So you should always observe in the area that you're in.
But I think it's cool to know that list of the fiddle you said, of which things are invasive, because I learned, for example, that we also have invasive species in our garden. So then you can at least step up and say, hey, maybe we should start to take these out, at least to the gardener or the people that's the owners of the house. Yeah. I see there are more questions. Indoor plants also require regular repotting and can cause the waste of soil materials. How to avoid this? How often do you repot? I don't do that often, but maybe that's not a good thing.
Yeah, it depends on what kind of plant too. Some plants like to be repotted, some not. Some are more sensitive to that. But you don't necessarily have to create waste of the soil materials. You can put it back to your compost and mix it with your compost, or I don't know. There's also a trick to, if you think you have pathogens in your soil, you can put it in the oven, for example. That kills the pathogens, the fungus or bacteria or whatever. So I personally have never tried that, but you can put it in a heatable pot and then put your oven to 100 degrees, and maybe it will kill pathogens too. And then you can use it again as Aussaaterde, for example. Yeah, or just compost it.
Is that a good answer? Then we'll continue with Julia in the meantime, otherwise you can let us know. What could we do to enhance biodiversity at home? Who can recommend local indoor plants? Does anyone want to comment on that, or shall we? Jeanine, do you want to take this?
So yeah, biodiversity at home is a funny concept to me, because it's still not very natural, right, to have plants at home and talk about biodiversity, because you don't have other insects that can profit from the plants, because you don't want to have bugs all around your room. So, but I think you're talking about what plants are just recommended for your room, and honestly, it's just what you like. It's an experience that you have to do on your own. But I know that there are some types of plants like this one. It's a Sansevieria, and it is said to purify the air, and it's also able to create oxygen from carbon dioxide at night, so without light. And this is said to be a good room plant for your sleeping room. But there are certainly also others where that you can use for air purifying qualities.
Can you give any examples of which plants are just easy to keep at home, like they're low maintenance, where you can give us a less green thumb?
For the people that are in between the green thumb and the plant killer, which ones would you suggest, Jeanine? What are good plants? Or people to start with, let's say?
Yeah.
What are starter plants?
I maybe have this one at hand. It's a calico. Maybe I can put it in the chat. I have this since I was a child. I can't even remember when I got this, but it's actually very forgiving because even when I wasn't at home for weeks, it just survived without any water. It's a half succulent, I think. And you can propagate it very easily. There's never any pathogens, and it's always green. It never had any yellow spots. So I'll put it in a chat, the name of it. And yeah, I think just try it. I mean, if you get your information about your plant before you buy it, then I'm sure you'll be able to take care of it if you really want to. So just take any plant.
So care less about looks and maybe also experiment a little bit. I remember that's what we talked about we have like this online community talk with GreenUp. And there we also said sometimes it's also just cool to experiment. I mean, for example, creating a plant out of the avocado. I don't remember who did that, but it was a huge, yeah. And there are many ways that you can kind of reuse and come up with cool ideas. So I guess not only look at the looks, but also the challenge and if the plant fits you. Priyash, you also have another question. Can we grow native Swiss plants as indoor plants? If yes, which?
You can always try. I'm trying to think of something, but
so native Swiss, then to me they're more like trees coming to mind, but that's because I live in the mountains, so we have a lot of. I know that people did that. You know, they start their little their little needle tree, and that works up to a certain point. Then you definitely have to bring it outside.
Yeah, but in the Alps you also have very sustainable plants like succulent plants, for example, the sedum.
Yeah.
Which grows on rocks in the Alps, and I've already tried to pick a stem of it, but I'm not sure what happened to that after. So probably I lost it somewhere, or I don't know. But you can try, for example, to take these kinds of succulents to your home, because I guess they're more resistant to shocks, because anytime you take something from nature and bring it to another room or another part of area, then it's a shock for the plant.
I don't see any more questions, and it's also 12:14. So are there any more questions in the room?
I'm just curious how many people are in the audience.
Yeah, I would need to change my view, I think, to see that. Or here. No. We're 12 plus we're here, so we're 16. Sorry, that was already the event later on. So yeah, I think the main message is less is more, also with plants, as with everything. Why not make a challenge for yourself, really create try, dare, like the the Alp sedum or things you find around. Share with friends. Try to propagate. I'm trying now my second propagation, and it's going well. Really slow. For me, it's really slow. I don't know, in the YouTube videos, it's like 1 week, and for me, it always takes ages. But doesn't matter. It still gives me something to do. My kids like to, to help and to see it grow every day. Oh, there is another root. So yeah, I think also be playful with it and try to take care of them as they are one of your favorite objects. Do you have any concluding remarks, Jeanine?
Have you told them that they can also go even if they don't have anything to swap?
Not yet.
Yeah.
Definitely. Just
definitely